All right, everyone, hold on to your seats because the question that has been dominating Westminster for weeks, the question that political observers have been debating endlessly, the question that has consumed British politics to the exclusion of almost everything else, might finally have an answer. Has Keir Starmer actually agreed to resign? Now, before you start celebrating or mourning, depending on your political persuasion, let me be absolutely clear. This is not confirmed, this is not official, but the rumors swirling around Westminster right now are so persistent, so specific, so detailed, that something significant is clearly happening behind the closed doors of Downing Street and the corridors of Parliament. We are hearing reports of crisis meetings that went late into the night, of senior cabinet ministers delivering ultimatums, of party grandees having very frank conversations with the Prime Minister about the viability of his position. We are hearing whispers that a resignation statement is being drafted, that the timing is being discussed, that the mechanism for transition is being planned. This might be it. The moment we have been building toward through scandal after scandal, crisis after crisis, the moment when Keir Starmer finally accepts the inevitable and steps down from a position that has become utterly untenable. Or this could be another false alarm, another instance of Westminster fever dream being mistaken for reality. But either way, the fact that we are even asking this question, the fact that the Prime Minister's resignation is being openly discussed as imminent rather than hypothetical, tells you everything you need to know about how catastrophically his premiership has failed. If you want to be here the second this story breaks, if you want to catch the moment history is made, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. Because whether it happens today, tomorrow, or next week, Starmer's resignation is coming, and you absolutely cannot miss it. So let us examine the evidence that suggests we might be approaching the endgame, because this is not just baseless speculation. There are genuine indicators that something major is happening. First, there have been multiple reports from usually reliable political journalists citing sources close to Starmer, suggesting that he has accepted his position is untenable. Now, accepting that your position is untenable and actually resigning are not the same thing, obviously. Politicians have been known to accept reality and then spend weeks or months denying that publicly while clinging desperately to power. But the fact that people in Starmer's inner circle are apparently acknowledging the severity of the situation is significant because it suggests the delusion has finally broken, the reality has penetrated the bubble. Second, there have been a series of meetings over the past few days that all have the hallmarks of a managed transition being planned. Senior cabinet ministers have been seen going in and out of Downing Street at unusual hours. Party officials have been huddling with constitutional experts. There have been conversations between Labour grandees and potential leadership candidates that would only make sense if a vacancy is imminent. All of this activity, all of this preparation, it points towards something significant happening very soon. You do not mobilize the entire party machinery like this unless you are preparing for a major event. Third, and perhaps most tellingly, Starmer himself has been notably absent from public view for the past couple of days. He has cancelled scheduled appearances, he has avoided journalists, he has not been seen in Parliament when he normally would be. Now, that could just be him trying to avoid the media circus while he figures out his next move. Or it could be him holed up in Downing Street having the difficult conversations and making the painful decisions that lead to resignation. The silence itself is deafening, because a prime minister who was confident in their position, who was planning to fight on, would be out there making that case publicly rather than hiding away. Fourth, there has been a notable shift in the tone of commentary from Labour-supporting media outlets and commentators. Where previously they were defending Starmer, making excuses, spinning the scandals as opposition exaggeration, they are now pivoting to discussing what comes next, who should replace him, how to minimize damage to the party. That shift, that movement from defense to acceptance to forward planning, that is often a reliable indicator that the end is near. When even your friends stop defending you and start planning for your successor, your time is up. Now, the question of whether Starmer has actually agreed to resign is complicated by the politics of how these things work. Rarely does a prime minister just wake up one morning and decide on their own to quit. What usually happens is a process where the Prime Minister is confronted with the reality that they have lost support, that their position is untenable, that continuing will only damage themselves and their party further. They are given the option to resign with some dignity and control over the timing and messaging, or they are threatened to be forced out in a more humiliating fashion through a vote of no confidence or mass cabinet resignations. Faced with that choice, most prime ministers choose to resign on their own terms rather than wait to be pushed. The reports suggest that this is exactly the conversation that has been happening with Starmer. Senior party figures, possibly including cabinet ministers, possibly including party officials, have apparently gone to him and laid out the brutal truth. The scandals are not going away, in fact they are getting worse. The Mandelson connection is toxic and terminal. The Shabana Mahmood donation scandal has added another layer of damage. The polls are catastrophic. The party is in open rebellion. Upcoming elections look like they will be disasters. His own MPs are positioning against him. The government cannot function with a lame duck prime minister. And therefore, the kind and decent thing, the thing that would be best for the party and the country, would be to step aside and let someone else take over before even more damage is done. That conversation, that intervention, is apparently what has led to Starmer agreeing to resign, though the details of what exactly has been agreed remain unclear. Has he agreed to resign immediately? Has he agreed to resign after a certain date or event? Has he agreed in principle but not committed to specific timing? These distinctions matter enormously in terms of what happens next, but they are all variations on the same fundamental reality. Starmer's time as Prime Minister is ending. The only question is exactly when and how. The mechanics of a Prime Minister's resignation are worth understanding because they will determine how the next few days or weeks play out. Starmer would need to travel to Buckingham Palace to formally tender his resignation to the King. He would make a statement, probably outside Downing Street, explaining his decision and presumably taking some responsibility for the failures that led to this moment, though given his track record, he might also try to shift blame elsewhere. There would then be a process for selecting a new Labour leader who would become Prime Minister. The exact timeline would depend on Labour's internal rules and whether they can agree on a coronation of a single candidate or whether there needs to be a full leadership contest. The potential successors are already positioning, as we have discussed, but the actual contest, once it becomes official, will be intense and potentially divisive. Angela Rayner, West Streeting, Rachel Reeves, and various others will be making their pitches to the parliamentary party and potentially to the wider membership depending on the process that is followed. Each will be trying to distance themselves from Starmer's failures, while also claiming credit for anything the government has achieved. Each will be promising a fresh start, a return to Labour values, a government that can actually deliver. Whether any of them can actually rebuild credibility after the catastrophic damage of the Starmer era remains to be seen. The timing of a potential resignation is the subject of intense speculation. Some reports suggest it could happen this week, possibly even within the next few days. Others suggest Starmer might try to limp on until after certain scheduled events or votes, trying to manage the timing to minimize disruption. There is also the possibility that external events force the issue, that some new revelation or parliamentary defeat makes continuing impossible and triggers immediate resignation. The uncertainty itself is part of what makes this situation so volatile and so fascinating to watch. What is clear is that the pressure has reached unsustainable levels. You can only maintain a facade for so long when everything is collapsing around you. You can only deny reality for so long when everyone, including your own party, knows the truth. Starmer has reached the point where resignation is a question of if, but when, and all the indicators suggest that when is very soon. The agreement, if it exists, might not be a formal signed document, but rather an understanding, an acceptance of the inevitable that makes the actual announcement just a matter of working out the details. The impact of Starmer's resignation, whenever it comes, will be enormous. It will be seen as a validation of everything his critics have said about his unfitness for office. It will energize the opposition, who will claim vindication. It will throw Labour into turmoil as they scramble to find a replacement and restore some credibility. It will dominate news cycles for weeks as the resignation itself, the reasons for it, and the succession battle all play out. It will reshape British politics in ways that are difficult to fully predict, but which will almost certainly benefit parties other than Labour. The historical judgment on Starmer's premiership will not be kind. He will be remembered as the Prime Minister who promised integrity and delivered scandal, who promised competent governance and delivered chaos, who had every opportunity to succeed and squandered them all through catastrophically poor judgment. His tenure will be studied as a cautionary tale about the dangers of hypocrisy,